the Pellegrino bottle.
All right. Jonathan and I are live to talk a little bit about building biology and mold. Hopefully you won't hear the coffee shop music too bad in the background. We're trying to sit close to each other so you can see both of us. But hey everybody, if you have any questions about building biology and mold and how to find it, how to start finding where it is, and maybe if it's causing some of your health symptoms, please throw your questions out there, because we are just going to kind of go live for a couple of minutes and try to answer some of the questions we didn't get to during our other live. I think Jonathan's going to start by maybe answering some questions about mechanical systems and what to look for. How do you use EC3 products in building biology? There's a good question.
Yeah, that is a nice intro. Well, hey guys, I'm Jonathan with JF Healthy Homes, building biologist here. And if you missed the live last Wednesday with Microbalance, my lovely friends at Microbalance, you joined at an opportune moment where we can help answer some questions. So first of which is, how do I use EC3 products in building biology? So there's a number of ways, right? Catherine and I were just having a long discussion about all the many uses and all the different coverage that Microbalance has with their very many product offerings and amazing things, right? The Citra Drops nasal spray, my favorite. Go through like a bottle of that a day. So it is nice music. I know it's Christmas music right now. It's wonderful. They set the tone. So for me specifically, I use all the products, a lot of the different supplemental products, the Celltropin products, Sinus Defense 2.0 for healing myself and just being exposed to things constantly. Recommend a lot of those to my clients, not as medical advice, but just, if they can tolerate them or want to use them. They're really helpful and very, not aggressive, but super supportive of the biome in the home and the body. So I recommend them to be used for cleaning, from their laundry additive to the EC3 spray to the wipes. And personally, I use them a lot in just cleaning like my tools and stuff, my gear from being in moldy places. But you can use them in a number of different ways. Again, not medical advice. Sinus 2.0 or Sinus spray, both of them, honestly, I use both of them. They do different things, right? They work in different ways, and they're introduced in different ways, right? But I think Catherine can kind of go into a little bit more about the benefits of each of those and how they could be used together, because I use them together a lot.
Well, I think Jonathan uses mostly the nasal spray like before and after he goes into some of the homes he inspects for protection. And, you have the Sinus 2.0, but you're nervous to use it. I get it. The ingredients can scare you, but please don't be afraid. They're no-sodes, and it's more of the energetic blueprint of that virus or that substance. It's not actually any live viruses or pathogens in the spray. It's just basically the energetic blueprint of it to teach your body what to do if it encounters those things. So it helps your immune system to be more efficient when it does. So here's one for you. Whole house dehumidifier is an effective tool for controlling humidity.
Yeah, great question.
Santa Fe in particular.
Santa Fe, yeah, we were just having this conversation. Yeah, I like Santa Fe, April Air. I think there's some great companies making great products out there. But yeah, with that, there's caveats, right? So you want to make sure you work with a mechanical professional, HVAC professional, who's going to do a manual JS&D. They're going to do a blower door test typically, and a leakage test on your ductwork. You want to make sure that you're configuring everything correctly. You want to make sure pressurization is done correctly, whether you're doing it inline or you're doing it as a side chain, as a bypass. With the dehumidifier, depending on your climate, typically always you want a fresh air intake. And I know Santa Fe and April Air both make those where they're partnered together, a fresh air intake with a dehumidifier, and that could replace something like an ERV with a dehumidifier. And then also in that, if you're bringing in fresh air, you want to try to filter it as well, so you're not bringing in particulate and more spores from outside, right? So that's super important, and you can clean all of that with EC3. So that's a really good thing if people have like window splits or window units, mini splits. I always recommend cleaning with the enzyme cleaner is great for that, or any of those products are great. So yeah, I like the Santa Fe dehumidifiers 100%. I would say opt for the one with fresh air intake, and make sure you do pressurization load calculations with a professional.
Yeah, we were talking before we even started the live a little bit. I've got whole home dehumidifiers in our house, and they were designed such that they have like they're ducted separately, so they basically like suck the air up, dehumidify and filter it, and then supply it to our furnace or air handler. So it's like your air is a little bit double filtered and dried before it then gets pumped into your house, which is kind of ideal. So yeah. And somebody asked if the Sinus Defense 2.0 can trigger a PANS flare. It should not do that because it's actually designed to make your immune system more efficient. Now, anything can happen. Sometimes if you have an exacerbation of symptoms, like with homeopathics, it's what's called like approving, which means that sometimes the symptoms that it sort of energizes and brings to the forefront are also the symptoms that it's treating. So you might want to titrate back on your dose if that happens, and then just work your way back up. You can also water dose it, that I was talking to Jonathan about earlier, which means like, say you have 50 ounces of water that you try to drink during your, day at work. You can spray kind of your entire daily dose into that water and sip on it throughout the day. And it's a wonderful way to get the Sinus Defense 2.0 in a more graduated process. And you'll get all of the benefits. So anyway,
Do you work with builders to prevent mold during? Do I work with builders to prevent mold during the building process? Yes, 100%. I was just crawling all over trusses yesterday on a construction site at night, looking for mold on the framing and on the trusses and everything, so that way we can remove it right before any sort of next sequence occurs, and then also just ensuring that stuff is stored properly. The right sequencing of events from building materials, bringing building materials in is done properly. A lot of things come already with what they call lumberyard mold on them, so sometimes it's kind of inevitable, and you have to. Sorry, laughing at the Moody Jazz comment. Yeah. You have to just inspect a lot of things without being crazy, right? Like ultimately, there's going to be mold on materials because a lot of times comes like that. Trusses are made off site a lot of times and shipped in. So we really just have to be kind of careful and very vigilant to inspect those things. And you can mechanically sand them, HEPA-vac, and then treat it with stuff like EC3, wiping it off with EC3 and all that. Really great. And then of course you can test it with hydrogen peroxide to see if it bubbles up too, to make sure it's pulled out. But I would work with like a mold professional there, an IEP or a building biologist, to come and inspect your site throughout the build process. And I personally do work with builders to make sure they're building to building biology standards, including the mold aspect. So great question.
Yeah, that is a great question. We got a lot of questions, and I missed some of them, so I'm going to try to kind of go back. Somebody was asking about Air Oasis in most rooms, if that would help, if you think that would help.
Yeah, Air Oasis are good. I think some of the newer ones have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth in them, so just be careful with that. I know it's pretty easy to remove the module. Not a slight to them at all. I think that's just what the market demands sometimes, unfortunately.
To control it from your phone.
Yeah, exactly. So turn on my Air, so you can talk to Alexa and tell it to turn on your Air. But so that just have that kind of with that caveat. As always, like air purifiers, standalone dehumidifiers, these are all just band-aids, right? They're great in their own regard, like they're all just tools. But we want to treat the root cause at the end of the day. We don't want to be relying on putting band-aids on a moldy home or a moldy situation like an air purifier, but to keep the environment clean, to keep it scrubbed, and to keep those outdoor spore counts low, so we have that normal balance from inside and outside. EC3 products cleaning, doing microfiber cleaning, even the fogger with the EC3. And yeah, stuff like Air Oasis are great.
Yeah, dust mitigation, that's huge. We find like what helps a lot of people is if you can get a really great bagged HEPA vacuum, and use it like you would, like put the little brush on it and use it on your surfaces for dusting, because the physical removal of dust is better than moving it around. So if you can do that, that's super helpful. Just less for mold to grow on, less food.
Less food, less support for mold.
And the guy that was asking about the Santa Fe's asked, he has the person coming back tomorrow that installed it, his indoor humidity is still at 60%. Are there any questions he should ask to help solve that?
Yeah, I would see if you could get a blower door test done to see what that score is, see if you can find any potential sources of intrusion or thermal bridging, negative pressure coming inside. Make sure when they're doing that, they're turning on exhaust fans and all that kind of stuff too, and checking cracks and crevices where it could intrude from the outside. And then see where you might need to do some air sealing. Check penetrations in your attic. That's really common around lights. We were just talking about this too, around lights and any sort of electrical penetrations. A lot of times they'll just throw batt insulation over it, and that is not air sealing. That's just a Band-Aid again. Can cause even more issues. So you want to check those. If you have a crawl space, you want to check all those penetrations too, if you can, through the sill and all those points too. So yeah, if there's a high humidity in the home, that's higher, or in combination with the outside, you want to look into some issues of intrusion. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, also sometimes with dehumidifiers, and I know we don't have a Santa Fe, but this happened with one of ours. It was working so hard that there was like some issue with the Freon in it. And so you just need to make sure that it's, I guess, sized right for the amount of air it's supposed to be dehumidifying. It might not be able to keep up.
Yeah.
And then another question Jonathan was telling me earlier, and I thought this was a great tip for those of us who are not building biologists, but if you have an attic, go up into your attic at night, and if you can safely, turn the lights off and see if you see light from the living space of your house coming up into the attic, because then your fixtures are not properly sealed and there is something lacking in insulating your living space from your attic, and that needs to be fixed. Did I say that correctly?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an easy test to do. Not a fun one usually, going up in the attic at night, turning the lights off. Might meet the boogeyman up there, but yeah, you definitely want to check that. It's an easy way to tell, like Catherine said, that there is some sort of air pathway, which ultimately that thermal difference, right, in that pathway is what can cause a lot of those mold issues, especially with the HVAC boots. A lot of times I see a steel boot or an aluminum boot that's just going through drywall with no insulation around it, nothing, and there's bridging right there, right? And then you start to get the growth around it underneath. Sometimes I'll unscrew like the actual supply vent and you'll just see black all around. So we want to make sure that there's no possibility for a delta T or a lower dew point on those actual surfaces.
Oh yeah, because if it hits there'll be humidity, and I mean that'll probably drop into your ceiling, and you might get those spots on your ceiling where you think you have a leak, but it's really just condensation from improper insulation of your ducts and things like that.
Yeah, the attics can be a major pain point, like we were talking about, putting mechanical systems and oversized and undersized, incorrect duct sizes, all that, creating incorrect pressures, too much positive pressure, negative pressure, and just being in an environment, an unconditioned attic, trying to blow the opposite temperature in the season it's in is just a building science nightmare. So
yeah,
we're working on fixing all that.
Yeah. Well, and another thing we were talking about earlier is we're both in Tennessee, and we're currently in Memphis because Jonathan's to come here to do some inspections tomorrow. But a huge problem in Tennessee, and I don't know if this is where you guys are, but the exhaust vents for bathrooms are vented directly into the attic instead of outside the home. How can you go into your attic to know if you've got an exhaust fan vented to the attic?
Yeah, sometimes it's easy, other times it's more difficult. A lot of times it'll be buried under, insulation, either blown-in insulation or even bats of insulation I've seen. And then other times you'll find it just pushed up into like the soffit vent, which is not exterior venting. That's just a recipe for disaster too, especially if you have fully vented soffits. It's just going to blow air back. So preferably we're going through the roof with the exhaust fans, right? It has to be done very carefully. There's a great product, Roof Event, that actually has a condensation line on it now. So Travis built it. It's like one of their big supporters. Great company. They're doing great things. But you want to make sure it's vented to the outside. If you want, you can just turn them on. If you have those vents, protrusions on the outside, turn them on and just go up with a ladder to see if it's blowing anything. Easy way to test. If it's not, you can pretty much guess that it's not connected or it's disconnected, and they fall off. They fall off very, very easily too, because they're not always on there very tight. So yeah, go around and scour a little bit in the attic, or if you can hire me and I'll go and scour your attic for you. It's where my safe place. So but it's very common, I think, in Tennessee, and probably other than that all over, honestly, unfortunately. But it's important to get that humidity out of the attic, and it's not just venting it into the attic is not a sure bet of getting it out, right? So I'll see it put into like gable vents and stuff like that, and like if there's a slight wind, it's just going to blow it right back in your attic. So we want to point it out in a way. They actually have products that will like have a damp on them and go out past your soffit, which is better, but you really want it through the roof. Ultimately, that's the main goal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So does Jonathan ever work in Atlanta or recommend anyone in Atlanta?
Yeah, I do work in Atlanta. Love Atlanta. Good food, good people down there, and would be absolutely happy to help. So just reach out, and we'll definitely be able to get some information out to you.
His website is jfhealthyhomes.com.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And you could, I think there's like where you can contact or anything like that. So. Yep.
Admin at jfhealthyhomes.com.
And then, you want to just like take one more?
Sure. Yeah, I saw someone had asked about the top 3 things I check for mold in a home. So HVAC systems for sure. Mechanical systems are huge, right? Because that's an area that's pretty much creating a mold factory, right? If it's not sized properly, which again is very common, it's not able to condense properly or pull the moisture out of the environment or out of its own environment, right? And there's natural material in there. There's all the things mold need inside of an HVAC system, pretty much. Especially with the package units that don't have a separate furnace inside, they're just sitting outside in the heat and then in the cold, so they're blowing opposite temperatures in whichever season they're in. So just the building science is not sciencing. That, of course, like wet rooms, sinks, stuff like that, where there's a lot. We were just talking about this one. I've gone to a lot of houses. Sink looks fine, the vanity looks fine, and then you stick a scope underneath the protrusions right there, and on the back of that drywall, underneath the back corner of that vanity where you can't see, there's a lot of mold growing there a lot of times. Yeah,
he says he finds Stachybotrys there a lot.
It's very common.
You definitely don't want Stachybotrys anywhere near you, so.
You do not. And then the showers. Showers are super common too.
Yeah.
That's one, So I always pull a shower, the face of the shower off, or at the head, stick a camera down there. And typically nowadays we're doing air sampling in the shower always.
Nice.
Yeah, it's kind of I've kind of learned that's kind of like the given. Like we should just air sample compared to the outside. Usually a 2-minute draw, 30 liters. And if there's anything higher than the outside, sure enough, there's moisture back there. And it happens, right? Because there's lines typically, there's copper. It's a hot, steamy environment, and then you have no insulation, so you have a massive thermal bridge in there, and then it's just either it's leaking, which is typically not what I find, it's not usually very obvious, or it's just condensing in that cavity constantly, and it's growing on the drywall on both sides. Typically they're not using cementitious board, which we all should be. We should never be using drywall in any scope of the imagination, but it gets used overly, right? Especially in wet rooms, and that's just a great way for mold to grow in those environments.
So what are signs to look for? Would it be like cracking paint, like separating baseboards in there? It will be mold, reoccurring mold in the caulk, like just all the things?
All the things, the signs and symptoms, right? And that's what we follow the signs and symptoms to go into a house, unless I'm working with a mold dog and they point out areas to me, which we do, mold pups. But other than that, it's kind of just like, hey, these are the wet rooms, these are the potential areas. If I see something off, a lot of times it's like there's no signs, right? Like in a shower, a lot of times the drop-in tubs are really notorious. There's no signs. They're backed up to an attic a lot of times, so it's like an unconditioned space, and then there's just like insulation separating that from the attic. So you have like a massive thermal bridge right there that's just like there's no breakage at all. So I mean, a lot of times there are no symptoms. Most times behind showers when I'm finding that mold, it's because it's so localized to that interior area between the studs that you can't really see external signs. But otherwise, look for any signs of cracking, moisture, bubbling, or underneath. Obviously if it's an upper surface, look for any signs of staining, but a lot of times there are no symptoms, which is the most stressful part about a lot of this hidden mold, right? Is trying to find it.
What about the from a building biologist point of view? I'm so curious. There's all this stuff online going around about toilet tanks and checking the toilet tank, and that being a sign of hidden mold. What do you say about that? Do you think that that's a good litmus test?
I think so. I like the nervous look. You're like, what is he going to say? I think it has a lot of good data to it, but I also think there's a lot of caveats, right? And like it's being, like a lot of things, it gets used as like the main takeaway. If there's mold in my toilet lid, my house is infested and I have to burn it down. It's like, it's not that simple. It's a damp, humid environment with all the things necessary for mold to grow, right? And so like a lot of times what I see, there's little divots underneath your toilet. A lot of times a toilet tank lid, when they back a toilet up with those divots, not all of them have them. They back it up to the wall, there's literally no breathing space. That will start to breathe on that wall. So that's what I see most times as like a mold source. I mean, almost every single toilet tank lid, unless it's a brand new toilet I pull up, has some mold growth in it, and that's where I would say like an EC3 cleaning. But I wouldn't say that automatically is the causation or correlation for saying that my house is full of mold. I would say that could be a sign. It could mean it's airborne, but at the same time, that's not like a direct correlation at all times. So there's a lot of caveats to it.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to agree from kind of what I know. A good product to use in your toilet tank, if you're wondering, are the EC3 enzymes, full strength.
It's my favorite.
I need to do a tutorial on that, but if you put them in your toilet tank and let them sit, they do a really good job. And there's a place where you can dump the enzymes that also clean your rim jets, and the rim jets are what the water comes out of, like right underneath the rim that you can't see. And you'd be surprised how much mold can get in those if you don't clean them. So I'll do a tutorial on that. It's kind of gross, but it's also really really satisfying to clean, strangely enough. Well, I mean, I think that's kind of all. We just wanted to jump on and like do a quick live. But if anyone has a quick question they want to ask, let us know. But otherwise, thank you for doing this with me.
Thank you for having me.
And we're going to do some more lives with Jonathan because building science is like the key to preventing and solving the mold problems, because like that's the source. I mean, you can clean all you want. Obviously, I work for Microbalance, so I love EC3 products, but they're not going to solve your mold problem. Someone like Jonathan is. So that's why we like to have him on. So,
Thank you.
But anyway.
Glad to be here.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.